The boy's hand slipped from his mother's grasp. She was reaching for her bag just for a second. That was all it took. He darted through the crowd, small shoes tapping against the pavement, chasing the sound of laughter near the glass wall. A trip, a stumble, a sudden cry, and then silence. Gasps rippled through the crowd. People pointed. Mothers pulled their children close. A boy no older than 5 had fallen into the gorilla enclosure. Dust clung to his clothes as he sat up slowly. His tiny hands shook. His eyes widened. The massive silverback turned. Broad shoulders shifted like stone. Dark eyes, unreadable, locked onto the child's trembling gaze. The crowd screamed. The boy didn't move. For one breathless moment, the zoo fell quiet. The gorilla stepped forward, each movement heavy, deliberate. He stopped inches from the boy. His shadow swallowed the child whole. The boy blinked, and then the gorilla bent closer. What happened next would leave everyone speechless. Subscribe now, so you don't miss what unfolds in this unbelievable story. And tell me, if it were your child down there, what would you hope the gorilla would do? The boy lay flat on the dirt floor, his small chest rising and falling in shallow bursts. His palms were scraped raw from a fall. Dust clung to his cheeks. He didn't cry. He couldn't. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Above him, the silverback loomed. The gorilla's shadow stretched across the boy's body, enormous, suffocating. Muscles rippled under coarse black hair as the animal shifted forward. The crowd above erupted into chaos. Mothers shrieked. Fathers shouted. A dozen voices collided in panic. "Get him out!" someone screamed. "Do something!" cried another. But no one moved. Behind the glass walls, keepers sprinted toward the enclosure. Radios crackled. Hands reached for keys, for tranquilizers, for anything that might stop what everyone feared would happen next. But hesitation hung in the air. The wrong move could mean the child's life. The gorilla bent his knees slowly, lowering himself until his massive frame crouched inches from the boy. A low rumble vibrated in his chest. The boy's eyes fluttered, wide and wet. He flinched as a leathery hand extended, brushing over his tiny shoulder. Not a strike, not a grab, just a touch. The crowd fell silent. The silverback tilted his head, nostrils flaring, as though trying to understand what lay before him. His fingers lingered, pressing lightly against the boy's shirt. The boy gasped, but he didn't pull away. His body was frozen, caught between terror and something else, an instinct to trust. High above, his mother's scream broke the silence. "That's my son. Please, please help him." She pushed against the railing, struggling against arms that tried to hold her back. Her voice cracked with desperation. Tears streaked down her cheeks. "Don't shoot. Please, don't hurt him." Her cries reached the keepers. They froze, tranquilizer rifles half raised. A single dart could send the gorilla into a frenzy. A bullet could end it instantly, but also take everything from her. The decision weighed heavy in their eyes. Inside the pit, the silverback shifted again. He gave a sharp grunt, looking toward the far corner of the enclosure. Another gorilla had appeared, a younger one curious, creeping closer. The silverback's chest heaved. He let out a guttural roar, deep and resonant, that shook the air. The younger one halted, ears flattening, retreating into the shadows. The boy blinked, startled by the sound. Then something remarkable happened. He reached out as if searching for stability. His small hand brushed against the gorilla's arm. The touch was feather-light, accidental perhaps. But the gorilla did not flinch. He stayed still, his dark gaze steady, almost protective. Above, people whispered, "Did you see that? He's not hurting him. Maybe he's guarding him." No one dared to breathe too loudly. The zoo, once full of chatter and laughter, had been reduced to a chamber of dread and awe. The gorilla leaned closer, pressing his ear near the boy's chest. A strange stillness filled the enclosure, as though the animal was listening, measuring the quick, frantic heartbeat of the child. His brow furrowed, his eyes softened. The boy finally found his voice. A whisper, "Mama?" The sound was thin, fragile, almost lost in the heavy air. Yet the gorilla stirred at it, shifting as though he recognized the call. From the railings, the mother collapsed into sobs. She pounded the metal with her fists. "Hold on, baby. Hold on." Keepers argued in hushed tones, each word sharp with fear. "We have to sedate him. It's too risky. He'll crush the boy. If he snaps." "He hasn't yet. Look." The silverback's massive hand rested near the boy's tiny fingers. He didn't grab. He didn't strike. He simply stayed there, as though testing the distance between them, as though weighing the fragile weight of human life in his palm. The crowd began to shift, not just in noise, but in belief. Some lowered their phones, no longer recording but staring in wonder. Children clutched their parents, whispering questions. Strangers reached for each other's arms without realizing it, because what they saw was not rage. It was not violence. It was something else. Stillness, a bridge between two worlds that were never meant to meet. The boy blinked slowly, his lashes heavy with tears. He whispered again, a sound too soft for most to hear. But his mother did. She heard it clear as day. "He's not scary." Her breath caught. She gripped the railing tighter, as if her own strength could somehow reach him. The gorilla's chest rose and fell in deep, deliberate breaths. He kept his hand near the boy, his body angled between him and the other gorillas that lingered in the corners, watching. A sentinel, a shield. The keepers hesitated still. Every second stretched, drawn tight as wire. The crowd's fear had not vanished, but it had changed. Suspense tangled with awe. Terror danced with hope. And for the first time since the boy's fall, silence did not feel like the edge of tragedy. It felt like the beginning of something no one could explain. The gorilla leaned closer again. The boy did not flinch this time. Their eyes met, level and searching. One ancient, dark, full of unknowable depth. The other small, innocent, wide with wonder. For a fleeting moment, the world above seemed to fade. There was no glass, no crowd, no danger, just a child and a beast, staring into each other's souls. And then, with a suddenness that made hearts stop, the gorilla placed his hand flat on the ground beside the boy, close enough to touch, close enough to crush. The boy's mother screamed his name. The crowd gasped, and the keepers raised their rifles. The rifles stayed trained on the silverback. Red dots trembled against his chest. One shot, one mistake. The mother clutched the railing, her knuckles white. She screamed above the chaos. "No, don't shoot. Please don't shoot." Her voice cracked, jagged with terror. But no one seemed to hear her. The keepers muttered to each other, their eyes locked on the gorilla crouched over her son. The boy lay motionless at the animal's side, staring up into the face of something he didn't understand. The gorilla rumbled deep in his throat. A warning. His massive frame shifted, blocking the child from the view of the crowd. The keepers flinched. Fingers hovered closer to triggers. And then, "Stop." The mother cried again, shoving against the bodies holding her back. Tears streamed down her face, blurring her vision. "He's not hurting him. Look, he's not hurting him." Her pleas silenced some of the onlookers. Heads turned. The rifles wavered. Her chest heaved as she shouted, her voice raw. "That's my son. You shoot him, you kill him, too." The words sank into the air, heavy and sharp. The silverback snarled, lips curling back, when a keeper dared step closer. The sound shook the enclosure. The boy flinched, but the gorilla's hand pressed gently on the dirt, steadying him. The mother's knees buckled, and she fell against a rail. Memories crashed into her like waves. Her son's first cry in the delivery room, the way his tiny fingers had wrapped around hers. She remembered rocking him in the still hours of the night, whispering promises into his soft hair. "I'll never let you go. I'll never let you out of my sight." But life wasn't perfect. She worked long hours. There were days she had missed bedtime, days she had brushed off his tug at her sleeve with just a minute, "Sweetheart." Guilt ate at her as she realized. She had let go, if only for a second, and now here he was, trapped in the hands of fate. Her sobs cut through the noise. "Please, he's all I have. Don't take him from me." The silverback shifted again, turning his head toward the shadows. Two more gorillas had emerged, Females this time, curious, edging closer. Their low grunts vibrated in the tense silence. The boy whimpered, curling closer to the dirt. The mother's heart stopped. This is it. But then, something no one expected. The silverback moved. In one sweeping motion, he swung his massive arm wide, pounding his chest with a thunderous crack. Dust burst into the air. The females recoiled instantly, backing away, their eyes lowered. The silverback roared, a sound that shook the enclosure walls, commanding obedience. The boy shielded his face, but the great beast's body remained angled, broad, and protective. He had placed himself between the child and his own kind. Gasps rose from the crowd. Someone whispered, "He's guarding him." The keepers froze mid-step. The rifles lowered a fraction. The mother pressed her forehead to the railing, her shoulders shaking. Relief mingled with terror in her chest. She could see it now. She wasn't crazy. The gorilla wasn't attacking. He was shielding. Her voice broke into sobs. "He's protecting him. Please, please let him protect him." The boy stirred then, lifting his head just enough to glance up at the enormous creature beside him. His lips trembled. The gorilla glanced down, eyes softening in a way no one expected. He didn't bare his teeth. He didn't strike. He placed his massive fist on the ground, leaning closer to the child, his body a wall against the others that lingered beyond. The crowd went silent again. Even the children clung to their parents, too afraid to speak. The keepers whispered fiercely among themselves. "He's guarding him. It could be temporary. We can't risk it. If we shoot, he'll crush the boy. And if we don't..." Every word felt like a blade. The mother pressed her palms together, as though in prayer. "Please," she whispered to no one and everyone, "please don't take him from me." Her mind raced through more memories. His giggle when he played with his toy cars. The way he'd run to the door when she came home, shouting "Mama." The warmth of his forehead against her lips at night. She had promised him safety, promised to be his shield. And now another shield had risen in her place. A creature who should have been the greatest danger of all. The gorilla's growl deepened as one of the females crept forward again. He lunged, slamming his fist into the dirt with such force that the boy flinched back against the wall. But the silverback immediately leaned down, brushing his arm gently near the child as though to calm him. Gasps turned into stunned silence. The boy's tiny hand lifted again, trembling. This time, deliberately, he placed it against the gorilla's arm. The mother covered her mouth. Her sob caught in her throat. And the silverback, he didn't move. He didn't push the hand away. He simply breathed heavy and slow, his massive frame unmoving, as the boy clung to him like a living fortress. The keepers wavered. Rifles shook in their grip. The mother screamed again, voice hoarse, desperate. "Don't you see? He's saving him. Don't take that away from me. Don't take him away from me." Her words rang out, sharp as a bell, piercing through the tension. The gorilla's eyes flicked toward the crowd for a brief moment. Toward her. Toward the woman who cried with a voice both fierce and broken. For a heartbeat, beast and mother looked at one another through glass, bars, and distance. Two protectors. Two hearts caught in the same storm. And then the gorilla turned back, lowering his massive head near the boy once more. His arm remained outstretched, keeping the others at bay. He wasn't letting go. The air around the enclosure pulsed with noise. On one side, fear. On the other, awe. Voices clashed above the pit like thunder. "Tranquilize him." "No, too dangerous." "Shoot him before it's too late." "Don't you dare." The crowd was no longer a single body. It was a storm of divided hearts. Parents clutched their children tighter. Some shielded little eyes. Others held up phones, capturing every second of the unfolding nightmare. Down below, the gorilla sat with the boy pressed near his side. The child leaned against his rough fur, trembling but alive. The silverback shifted slowly, almost tenderly, rocking his weight back and forth. His massive hand pressed gently to the dirt, a rhythm that seemed soothing. It was as though the beast was cradling the boy in silence while the world above unraveled. The zookeeper in charge, an older man named Harris, stood near the front line of keepers. His face was pale, his lips pressed into a hard line. His eyes never left the pair inside the enclosure. "Options," he barked. His voice was tight, brittle. "Trank gun is ready One keeper said, "Knuckles white around the stock." "Too risky," another argued. "He'll crush the kid before the sedative works." "Then a live round," someone else muttered. "It's the only guarantee." Harris's jaw flexed. He couldn't look away. The gorilla bent lower, brushing his enormous hand along the boy's back. The boy startled at the touch, but then stilled. His head rested against the beast's arm. His small body, fragile as glass, leaned into the very danger that should have destroyed him. The mother's scream cut to the roar of voices. "Please, don't hurt him." Her voice cracked with raw desperation. She gripped the railing so hard her palms bled. Harris turned his head. He saw her, saw the way she shook, the way her entire being seemed to hang by a thread, saw a mother begging the world not to take her son. The silverback rumbled low, a sound that vibrated in the pit and traveled to the chests of everyone watching. He shifted his weight and pulled the boy closer, his huge arm wrapping, not tightly, not violently, but protectively, like a shield of living stone. The crowd gasped. "He's hugging him," someone whispered. "No, he's testing him. He's lulling him before he snaps." "You don't know that." Arguments cracked like whips across the crowd. Strangers pointed fingers, faces twisted in fear or wonder. The mother dropped to her knees, clutching the metal rail with both hands, rocking as though in prayer. Harris's heart pounded. He thought of his own daughter, grown now, long past the days of scraped knees and bedtime stories. He remembered the helplessness of watching her fever burn as a child, the way he had begged for her safety in the quiet of a hospital waiting room. And now here was another father's test, laid at his feet, a choice that would mark him forever. A woman in the crowd shouted, "That thing will kill him if you don't act." Another voice fired back, "You'll kill him if you do." The divide widened. Some called for mercy, others for blood. The sound became unbearable. Down below, the gorilla shifted again. He rocked, slow and steady, his body swaying gently. The boy whimpered, then buried his face into the beast's fur. And there impossibly he began to calm. His small body relaxed against the great chest. His breaths, still shaky, began to even. The sight stole the air from the crowd. A hush spread, fragile as glass. The silverback's rocking was deliberate, intentional, as though he was soothing a child in distress, as though he understood. The mother sobbed harder. "Please." He's trying to help him. "Can't you see?" Harris lifted his hand, signaling the rifles to lower slightly. But they did not drop. The keeper's eyes darted nervously. "What if it's a trick?" One whispered. "What if it isn't?" Harris muttered back. The gorilla grunted sharply when a younger male appeared again at the edge of the enclosure. The silverback's muscles tensed. He raised his head, chest heaving, and gave a low roar. The other shrank back into the shadows, cowed by his command. The boy stirred. He peeked up through damp lashes at the beast holding him. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. But his tiny hand, trembling, gripped the gorilla's fur. The crowd gasped again. The divide turned uglier. Shouts grew louder. "Put it down." "No, don't touch it. You're risking that boy's life." "He's saving that boy's life." Fathers pulled their children back from the railing. Mothers wept. Cameras zoomed. The air itself trembled with rage and wonder. Harris's hand shook. He wiped sweat from his brow, but his eyes never left the pair in the pit. The gorilla rocked once more, a slow, steady rhythm. The boy clung tighter. And then the mother screamed, louder than all the rest. "Please, don't hurt him. He's all I have." The words silenced the storm for a heartbeat. Even the crowd seemed to falter. The gorilla's gaze lifted. His dark eyes scanned the sea of faces. For the briefest moment, they locked with the mother's. Her breath caught in her throat. And then the silverback bent his head back down, shielding the boy beneath his massive body as the noise above erupted again, louder than ever. Harris's hand hovered in the air, torn between orders that would either destroy the child or risk everything. The divide was complete, and the next decision would change lives forever. The boy shifted against the silverback's chest. His breathing quickened, shallow and uneven. Tiny hands trembled against rough, matted fur. The gorilla's body went still. His nostrils flared as he studied the child, clinging to him. The crowd above held its collective breath. Every eye locked on the pair. Then, without warning, the beast moved. With one sweeping motion, he slid his arm beneath the boy and lifted him off the ground. A sound burst in the crowd. Gasps, screams, cries. Mothers covered their children's eyes. Fathers cursed under their breath. Phones shook in frantic hands. The boy dangled for a heartbeat, high in the air, cradled by fingers that could crush steel. God, no! The mother screamed, reaching over the rail as if her arms could span the impossible distance. Her voice cracked, raw and desperate. Please, please don't hurt him. But the gorilla didn't tighten his grip. He didn't strike. He held the boy against his chest. Enormous hands splayed protectively across the small back. The child whimpered, face pressed into thick black fur. His body shook, but he was still breathing, still alive. The crowd erupted with shouts. Shoot him. Don't shoot, wait. Trank him now before it's too late. Chaos reigned, but within the pit there was silence. The gorilla shifted his weight and rocked gently, the same rhythm as before. A low rumble vibrated through his chest, steady, almost like a lullaby. And then, through chattering teeth, the boy whispered something. At first, no one heard it, but his mother did. She froze, eyes wide, straining to hear. The boy's lips moved again, louder this time. Safe. The word cut through the noise like glass. The gorilla paused, his head tilted, eyes narrowing as though the sound had reached him. He adjusted his grip, pressing the boy closer to his chest. His great shoulders rose and fell in slow, deliberate breaths. The boy whispered again, weaker but clear enough now. You're safe. The mother choked on a sob. The crowd fell into stunned silence, voices dying on their tongues. Even Harris, the head zookeeper, felt his heart hammer against his ribs. The gorilla's gaze lifted. His dark eyes scanned the wall of faces above, then settled back on the child in his arms. His head tilted again, curious, as if studying something fragile he didn't fully understand. And then he moved. Step by step, heavy and deliberate, the silverback began to walk. Gasps rippled again. He wasn't retreating into the shadows. He wasn't dragging the boy deeper into danger. He was walking toward the gate. Harris stiffened. His voice dropped low but urgent. Open it. The keepers hesitated. Their rifles trembled. Sir, if we open that gate, he could. Do it, Harris barked. Now. The mother's hands shook violently against the railing. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All she could do was whisper her son's name over and over, as if the sound of it might carry across the impossible distance. The gorilla lumbered closer, clutching the boy with care that defied his strength. His massive arm wrapped around the child's legs, securing him as if he were something precious. His other hand brushed the dirt floor with each step, steadying his weight. The crowd parted in disbelief. Phones lowered. Some wept openly. He's bringing him back. No, it can't be. Oh, my God. The boy stirred again, his cheek pressed against the gorilla's chest, his eyes fluttering half shut. He mumbled another word, faint and slurred. Home. The gorilla grunted softly in reply, as though acknowledging him. Harris's throat tightened. He motioned sharply to the gatekeepers. Ready positions. Quiet. No sudden moves. The keeper scrambled. Keys rattled. A heavy latch screeched open. Metal groaned as the service gate slid wide enough to admit a figure larger than life. The gorilla slowed. His eyes darted between the opening and the wall of humans with weapons aimed at his chest. His nostrils flared, his head tilting side to side. For a moment, the crowd braced, fearing he would turn violent. But instead he advanced. Closer, closer still. The boy's mother pressed against the rail, sobbing uncontrollably now. Please, please. The gorilla stopped a few paces short of the gate. His body loomed, massive and terrifying. The boy's head rested limply against him, exhausted. The keeper's rifles shook. Every finger quivered against the trigger. And then the silverback crouched. Slowly, deliberately, he bent one knee, lowering the boy toward the earth. His enormous hand shifted, sliding carefully until the child sat balanced in the cradle of his palm. The crowd fell silent. The gorilla's eyes locked with the mother's for the briefest second, and in that silence, the world seemed to stop. The gorilla crouched low, his massive knuckles pressed into the dirt for balance. His dark eyes shifted once more to the tiny figure in his hand. The boy's chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. His head rested against the beast's palm, fragile as a bird. The crowd didn't move. Every heart beat in unison. Every gaze pinned on the impossible sight of predator cradling prey, yet refusing to harm. Rifles hovered, shaking with the tension of held triggers. Mothers buried faces into their children's hair. Fathers held out arms, as if to shield them from what might come next. And then, gently, almost reverently, the gorilla lowered the boy to the ground. The child slid onto the dirt, his limbs folding awkwardly beneath him. He whimpered softly but did not cry. His eyes fluttered open just long enough to glimpse the world above. The silverback pulled back, massive hands resting flat against the ground. He loomed for a moment, chest heaving, the air trembling with his breath. But he did not reach for the boy again. Gasps erupted above. He put him down. Oh my God, he let him go. He's safe, he's safe. The mother's scream broke through, sharper than all the rest. Baby! She tore away from the hands that tried to hold her back. She didn't care about protocol, didn't care about orders shouted by keepers. She vaulted the railing, feet slipping on metal, palms burning against the rough concrete. A storm of voices exploded. Stop her! Get her back! But no one could reach her in time. She dropped into the enclosure with a thud, knees scraping against the dirt. Her body lurched forward, driven by something deeper than instinct, a force older than fear. Her son. She reached him, arms wrapping tight around his small body. She pulled him into her chest, clutching him so fiercely she feared she might crush him. His tiny arms stirred weakly, trying to hug back. She sobbed into his hair. I've got you. I've got you. I'm here. The crowd above erupted into tears and cheers, phones shaking as they recorded a moment too raw to forget. But then silence fell again, because the gorilla had not moved. He sat only feet away, his massive frame casting a shadow over mother and child. His eyes, black and endless, studied them both. The mother froze, her heart hammering so loud she thought it might shatter her ribs. She turned her head slowly, and for a single heartbeat, her eyes locked with his. There was no rage there, no hunger, only something strange, something ancient, a quiet recognition. One protector seeing another. Her lips trembled. She whispered, though the words were meant for no one but him. Thank you. The silverback's chest rose, then fell. He gave a low grunt, deep but not threatening. His gaze lingered one moment longer, then shifted. He turned away. With deliberate slowness, he lumbered back across the enclosure, each step heavy, echoing with finality. The boy clung tighter to his mother as the beast moved, as though fearing he might return. But he didn't. The gorilla walked toward the shadows at the far end of the pit. He paused once, glancing back only briefly, then disappeared into darkness. The crowd erupted. Cheers, cries, applause that rang like thunder. Some wept openly, strangers hugging each other in disbelief. Others shouted prayers into the open air. Keepers rushed into the enclosure, their arms ready, their faces pale with relief. Harris barked orders, but his voice shook with emotion. Get the boy out. Clear the mother. Careful, careful. Hands reached for them. The mother clung to her son, refusing to let him go even as they tried to lift him. Her body shook violently, exhaustion crashing down now that the terror had passed. I won't let go, she whispered into her child's hair. Never again. I won't let go. The boy stirred weakly, his voice no louder than a breath. Mama? She kissed his forehead over and over, tears soaking his skin. Yes, baby. Mama's here. You're safe. You're safe. They lifted her out with him still in her arms. The crowd roared as she rose over the railing, clutching her son against her chest. Above, strangers clapped. Some reached for her hands as she stumbled back onto safe ground. Others wiped at their own eyes, shaken by what they had seen. Harris stood stiff, his jaw tight, his hands trembling despite himself. He watched the shadows where the silverback had vanished. For the rest of his life, he knew he would never forget those eyes. Neither would she. The mother sat on the ground beyond the railing, rocking her son in her arms as paramedics rushed to check him. She kissed his hair again and again, unable to stop. She whispered words only he could hear, promises sealed with each trembling breath. Around them, the world seemed to move in slow motion, the crowd dispersing, keepers lowering their rifles. The metallic groan of the gate, locking once more. But in her arms, her child was alive. That was all that mattered. The gorilla remained unseen, hidden in his shadowed corner. To many, he would always be a danger. To others, a miracle. Misunderstood, feared, but remembered forever. For the mother, he was something else entirely. A savior. She lifted her tear-streaked face toward the enclosure one last time. She whispered again, through broken sobs, the words she had spoken before. "Thank you." Her son stirred against her chest, his small fingers gripping her shirt. She held him tighter, her heart burning with love and relief. And as the sun began to dip, casting long shadows over the zoo, the family clung to one another, changed, humbled, and bound by an impossible story they would never forget. The boy was safe. The mother's heart was whole. And somewhere in the shadows, a noble giant faded into silence,